welcome back our co-host. He is the mogul. He is also the House Caucus Chairman. His name is Delegate Michael Hornby.
Good morning, Rob.
Did you pick up any kind of Irish accent while you were over there?
No, I didn't.
Right,
It's funny. It's funny because when I go to England, when I hang out with my English friends, I start speaking English with an English accent. But it was tough understanding or pronouncing some of the Irish guys' names.
Mm-hmm.
So on paper or on their business cards, that on the one side it's in Irish and the other side's in English. So when you picked up the Irish side, you were like, "Huh? What does that say?" And I've studied lots of languages, but Irish is definitely one of the toughest ones to get a feel of. Even.
Do you think that they now think that you have that you're a representative of West Virginia accent?
All of them looked at me and said, "You don't sound like you're from West Virginia." And
oh, good.
Now my mom's side of the Finnegans and my dad's side of the Hart, so we've got lots of Irish blood in our family, and there are lots of Irishmen in Southern Africa. So it was pretty cool once they found out that history.
That you're a Zimbabwean.
Broke the ice, and how I immigrated. It kind of related with how a lot of Irish Americans immigrated. So
that's cool. Let's welcome in Jefferson County Prosecuting Attorney Matthew Harvey as well.
I have a West Virginia accent.
Yes, you do. So
it's slight.
It's Southern.
Yeah, it's lessened over the 20 years that I've been in Eastern.
You definitely have a West Virginia accent.
You should have heard me 20 years ago when I first moved up here.
You're no Jordan Bridges, but you definitely have a West Virginia accent.
And when I go back home for visits, it thickens up a little bit, and then which I love it. I wish it would just stay thick.
We hired at our house to do a lot of the contracting work is from Ireland, from Northern Ireland, in fact. And when I first met him, it took a long time to understand him and to get when he's being funny, because he talks incredibly slowly. And I can only tell if he's telling me a joke when his eyes sparkle and his eyebrows go up. That's when I know I'm supposed to laugh.
And it was funny when we were in Parliament and all the different folks from the different counties in Ireland were together. They could identify each other from which county they were, because there's different Irish dialects between Irish counties, which made it even more difficult.
Yeah.
So.
Our guest in this segment is Delegate Adam Burkhammer. He is from the 64th. Adam, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, good morning, guys. How are you all doing?
Great, thank you. Adam's the chair of Human Services, is also in Government Org, Health and Human Resources, and the local government committees as well. What do you think about being on with this Hornby guy this morning, Adam?
Well, I wouldn't compliment him to his face, but over the radio, Mike is a great addition to the House. He came in a couple years after I did, and represents the Eastern Panhandle well. So you guys are represented well there.
I owe you $20.
All right, it'll work, because I get half of that. That's cool. Adam, what did you think of the governor's comments in regards to trying to open up the communications pipeline for some of these departments that work with children? And I know that's obviously of particular interest to you.
Yes, I thought that was a great step in the right direction. So over the last several years, we've really had a lot of contention between the legislator wanting to move some things forward through the child welfare system, but the executive branch really was not on board with that. So now that the executive branch is stepping up to the plate, wanting to be transparent, wanting to make themselves accountable to it, I think is a great step for us to really see some change.
What did you see in knowing for those who don't know, you are a foster parent as well, so you put your money where your mouth is, so to speak. What did you see as things specifically that needed to be improved in these relationships between the silos?
Well, mainly as we start, some consistency, and so the governor released a very thorough training that are going to happen starting with all the supervisors, and I think that is a great place to start. So we have 3 different cases in our home right now. We have 5 foster kids, and every one of them cases is handled differently and things are done differently. So major inconsistency, which then creates a really hard place for a family to try to care for kids when we're being treated differently all the time. So I think the best place to start is changing that culture, starting with that training, and getting a more consistent across the state. And this is also going to spill into all the other areas as well, into the courts. They struggle at times with consistency because they do things a little different from district to district, or circuit to circuit, I should say. So, getting everybody on the same page, reading from the same sheet of music, I think it's going to lead to better results in the end.
How much of this can be fixed with legislation, and how much of it needs to be fixed with better communications?
Well, I think that's a great question. And so I tell people all the time, on paper, we don't have bad law. The execution of it has been struggling over the last couple of years. And I'm not trying to pass the buck off to anybody else. As a legislator, we still have to give them the appropriate funds every year. And we still need to probably tweak some things. But a lot of it is on the execution of it. And so getting the execution of the law better is really on the executive branch, some of it on the judicial branch working through the courts. And so seeing the governor come out saying, hey, we're going to own this, we're going to make improvements, that's a great step.
Adam, as you know, my wife and I have been exposed to the foster system recently. You and I have talked privately about that. One of the biggest frustrations that we had was the communication between the CPS worker and the family. Is that this part of that that the governor's trying to address, or is this a whole different problem?
Nope, I think that has got to be part of this. So, you and I have talked again privately, won't discuss too much, but, a lot of miscommunication, a lot of no communication. And so when we're talking about rolling out new training, I think it's really going to talk about how we communicate with our families and our folks on the ground, because we're just at a point that we're not. And I understand they're carrying high caseloads and they are extremely overwhelmed. A lot of our department workers are. But we've got to start with the communication, talking with our families. But some of that is still passed down to what I'm going to call our service providers, or our child placing agency. Mm-hmm. The state several years ago decided there were certain aspects of the child welfare system that they just couldn't handle, so they contracted that out to these child placing agencies. And some of that burden is on them. And so some of the failures that Mike, you and I have talked about are really even on those that are contracted to do the work for the state. So, we've just got to communicate better across the line. And I really think in the age that we're living in, technology can help us do that. And we've really fumbled the ball recently with a new state program technology system called PATH that just never really has delivered what it was supposed to deliver, which was, create better communication, better record keeping, streamline some processes. So we've really got to dive into technology and say, if we're having manpower issues, how can technology fill the gap? How can we remove duplicative processes? How can we get information to flow from one technology to another technology? And so we passed legislation in the 24 session that was going to create a communication portal. We did give them ample time. That's supposed to roll out later this year. But that was the whole point of it, was to communicate across different technologies, get information out to people in real time. So I'm looking forward to that coming to fruition.
And it's not with bad intent that these CPS workers are not communicating. It's the whole system, as you said, the communication needs to flow better so that they can, correct?
I would agree with that. I think folks are out here doing the best they can with what they have. And so they're just overwhelmed. They're trying to, remove a kid from an unsafe environment and get them to a safe environment. And really the processes are not supportive of that. So the physical work of doing it, it really is what they're focused on. But then the follow-up and the communication from that just doesn't go well. And so we've just got to look at that as well. How do we become efficient? So as a business guy, as you are, Mike, we have to be efficient in what we do to be competitive in markets. And so I think there's efficiencies to be had in our workflow processes. But again, we're just so overwhelmed with the system right now. It's almost like we can't even be proactive, just simply reactive. And so I'm hoping that we can get kind of a strategic, proactive team put together as well and say, all right, we have to deal with operations they do on a day-to-day basis, continue to protect kids, continue to support families. But what's the future of child welfare look like? And some folks really have to get focused on that.
Now, legislatively, I know you lead the charge for the House, and you've been leading a task force of, I believe, governor appointees, Senate appointees, and House appointees leading this. legislatively, it's not always about the money, but if we could have more people in the guardian ad litem doing the guardian ad litem work, that does involve money, correct?
It does, and ultimately that bill got vetoed. We were trying to give a little bit of a raise to our GALs, our guardians ad litem, and it got vetoed. So we're kind of back to the drawing board and trying to sort out what our next move is. But yeah, the guardian ad litems representing the children in the court process are, again, high caseloads. Quality has dropped because of those high caseloads. And so a lot of foster families, a lot of adoptive families just don't feel like they're being represented well. And that's really no fault of anybody other than just an overwhelmed system. So we were trying to use funds as the means to attract more folks to do that. But with that being vetoed, we're going back to the drawing board. And we've already started meeting. We've been meeting with the courts. I've been meeting with House and Senate members. We're diving into the budget to see if there's some additional funds available somewhere that maybe aren't being utilized in the right way that we can shift over here to get this need met. But ultimately, in the end, we're asking attorneys to do very difficult work, and we are paying them a fraction of what they can make in private practice or even in federally appointed work. So you just can't. We've just got it out of balance there.
And I know we did a bill for funding CASA, coin-appointed special advocates. Was that bill, did that make it through to the finish line, Adam, within the budget? Is it now part of our standard budget?
It is. It's quite a bit less than what we allocated. So the House and the Senate budget was $1.1 million. And so what that funding was going to be set forth was to not only support CASA where it's at today, but allow the expansion of CASA throughout the state. There's an awesome organization that's using a lot of volunteer support. So those funding set the office up and hire directors and kind of direct staff, but then the actual field work that's done is all volunteer work. So you're really getting a big bang for the minimal buck that you're putting out there. But that $1.1 million was reduced to $300,000 in the governor's final budget. He has the ability to line item veto or line item shrink those in the budget, and he dropped it to $300,000. But again, still a positive step in the right direction. They had never had a line item in our budget prior to this, so even getting them that $300 is a great step. But there's another major hurdle that we've just come across with CASA, that the federal funding coming into CASA is going to be reduced substantially, if not cut completely. So that's going to be a major blow that the state's going to have to probably step up and decide how we're going to fill that gap.
Is that confirmed, Adam, or is that still up for discussion?
I believe that I'm going to say I have not completely confirmed it, but it is my understanding that a majority of that federal CASA funding has or will be reduced here in the next fiscal year.
Let's go to Matt Harvey here, the Jefferson County prosecuting attorney who deals with these sorts of things in the courtroom.
Delegate Burkhammer, are you familiar with the Family Treatment Court?
Yeah, we have a very successful family treatment court here in Lewis-Upshur County in our circuit. And you bring up a great point because that program has seen the successes that the rest of child welfare through the court system needs to see. But do you guys have that in your area, and what's your experience with it?
No, we do not have it in the Eastern Panhandle. But the funding is running out, and it's in trouble of closing July the 1st.
I was made aware of that, and so we're working on that of what the intentions are there. But I want to say I fully support what is going on there. Again, that's where your greatest successes through drug treatment and through the child welfare system are coming. But it is costly, but it shows you that when you spend more money and you have less caseload, so their whole concept is reduced caseload, more intentional work, that the success rate skyrockets there. So, that shows a lot of things. You need the adequate funding, you need low caseloads, you need support. And so that's where our communities are really going to have to step up and say, how do we support, how do we come in and support families going through drug treatment, whether it's through volunteering or whether it's, becoming a paid position. But our communities are really going to have to answer that, and especially if that funding would not be brought forth. I'm hoping we can continue those programs somehow.
So I guess we probably should have defined what family treatment court is, because it's a lot of the listeners here, like myself, I wasn't familiar with it until I learned about it. But it is in the abuse neglect proceedings, that's where the DHHR or DHS now Department of which one is it?
It's a DOHS.
DOHS. Okay. I forget where the O goes. DOHS seeks to intervene to protect the child from a family environment that's dangerous and with the ultimate goal of being reunification and termination of parental rights. That's the last measure. But family treatment court, a probation type style case manager is assigned to a specific court and helps direct offending parents or parents that are in those proceedings to services. And I've been told for I forget how many years it's been in existence, but it has resulted in 400 reunifications of families and children.
Yeah, so that's where you've seen your greatest success. But what their model is doing, and I'll say what the model of human services initially was supposed to do was exactly what family court's doing. This direct case manager getting you services, getting you the help, ultimately getting your kids back in the home if they safely could do so. But human services and CPS has just become so overwhelmed that they're just not able to do that to the quality and to the standard that would do it. So that's where family drug court was able to come in and do that very direct care and get ultimately better results. So what we've done to try to support that model in the legislature, we recently came in and defined a term called a parent resource navigator in our code, and then we have added them to the case in circuit court. So this model came directly from family drug court and what they were doing. And so trying to get this outside party, this parent resource navigator that can come in and help parents navigate a very complex system when the courts are telling them that they need to do X, Y, Z. Somebody is there to kind of walk with them, not to do it for them, but to support them and walk with them and get them those services and ultimately get their kids back and reestablish the family unit.
I'm unfamiliar with the parent resource navigator. I'm going to have to look into that. That's very interesting.
Yep. So it's kind of rolling out more across the state. So they did some pilot programs, and I came across it. Our county here in Lewis County was chosen as one of the pilots, and I just began to see the successes that it was having and hearing about it. And so we began to see how we could support it. And so it is supported through the courts, but it's a non-attorney that's able to help that family, like I said, navigate the complexities of court, of necessary services, whether that's drug testing or job applications or housing, finding housing or getting a car, whatever is needed for them to be able to support their children. This parent resource navigator can step in and kind of walk hand in hand with them. And
it's almost like a guardian ad litem in a sense, like they're looking out for the best interest of, but it's a little different because it's to help the offending parent.
That's exactly
cure
right.
the underlying issues for reunification.
Yeah, very similar comparison there. Other than the guardian ad litem is an attorney,
yes.
So it's more focused on the legal and the court aspect of it. There is an attorney, a respondent attorney appointed to those biological families as they're going through court. But this is so separate from that respondent attorney to say, we're going to represent you basically outside of court, meeting the court demands.
This would be great for like a peer recovery coach.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think you're right on there. So,
Adam, I have about a minute and a half left. Has there been any new legislation passed this year in regards to child welfare that you've not mentioned yet?
Nope, I think a lot of it's been covered with our various calls. I'm excited for the governor to be rolling out that. Some of the things he was rolling out was part of our legislation. So some of the critical incident review teams, some of those transparency, better dashboard. I would tell your listeners, go check out the new, it's still DHHR dashboard. Obviously, DHHR is kind of phasing out, but Human Services dashboard, it's got a new look, getting new additional information, being more transparent. That was all part of our legislation rolling out. So appreciate the governor's support and appreciate the community support as well as we move forward, trying to improve the lives of kids and families across the state.
And in regards to some of the things that you're sitting on task force-wise and such, how long will it take to implement some of those changes?
Well, it's hard to correct a big ship. So you just got to take small steps at a time, and so we're starting to move in the right direction. The governor's been out on a listening tour, or I should say the executive branch, and Secretary of Human Services has been out on a listening tour, hearing the problems, and so still identifying a problem, still getting a strategic plan put together through the executive. Legislators here just to support them however we can, whether that's through budget, through legislation, but definitely going to be a slow process. Be patient. Let's all work together, and let's just keep focused on kids and bettering the state here.
Good thought, Adam. Thanks so much for joining us.
All right. Thanks again, guys.
Nice chatting, Adam.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you too.
Delegate Adam Burkhammer